Welcome to this pre-class video on steroids. Steroids are a type of molecules that we would call lipid molecules, which have at least some degree of non-polar character about them. One way to kind of identify a steroid is that they have a characteristic A, B, C, D ring system. And we're going to use cholesterol as our example. Now, cholesterol is technically what we call a sterol. That is, if the steroid molecule has our old friend the hydroxyl group, we're going to call it a sterol. And again, we know that the OL is reminiscent or brings up in our mind a hydroxyl group. We can also see this A, B, C, D ring system in cholesterol. Here's ring A, B, C, and D. It's what we call a fused ring system because the rings are really kind of incorporated within each other. So it's a fused ring system. And you may say, well, how do you get other steroids? And in fact, we make other steroids and sterols from cholesterol. And you can just decorate the fused ring system with different chemical groups, different functional groups, and you get distinct steroids or sterols with a particular biological function. Well, in class we're going to talk a little bit more about cholesterol, and we all know that cholesterol has some good things about it and some negative things about it. Well, if we talk about the good thing of cholesterol, as I mentioned, it is involved in the synthesis or the production of other steroids or sterols. It's also used in maintaining what we call membrane fluidity. Our membranes, our cell membranes, they don't need to be too rigid or too solid-like or too fluid or too liquid-like. So cholesterol inserts itself into biological membranes and regulates the membrane fluidity. That is a very important biological role of cholesterol. Now, we actually make cholesterol in our bodies, and we get cholesterol in our diet. And we know that too much cholesterol has been associated with some pretty problematic health issues. One is what's been called hardening of the arteries or plaque buildup in arteries, and the fancy name is atherosclerosis. All right, so that's kind of introduction to steroids and cholesterol. We're also going to talk in this class period, which this is a kind of a pre-video for, another important molecule called arachidonic acid. Now, it's not a steroid, it's a fatty acid, but we're going to tie these two together, steroids and arachidonic acid. Now, arachidonic acid is kind of we'll see the structure in class, kind of a strange structure. It has 20 carbons. I'm writing the code, by the way. This is the fatty acid code. 20:4, so it's got 4 carbon-carbon double bonds in the R group for arachidonic acid, and the double bonds are at 5, 8, 11, and 14. So this is arachidonic acid. It is a fatty acid. It is a part of membrane lipids. And just like we've talked about membrane lipids before, they contain each membrane lipid molecule contains 2 fatty acids esterified to a glycerol backbone. One of those fatty acids can be arachidonic acid. Now, we also know that arachidonic acid can be released from the membrane And if it's released from the membrane, it can be used to make another important class of lipids. Actually, it can be used to make eicosanoids. And eicosanoids, again, we're going to learn more about this in class. These are a type of lipid molecule that we make endogenously, we make in our body, and just two of the roles are pain and inflammation. I could go on with some other things, but it's involved in regulation of pain and inflammation. Well, if you have some type of illness, or you have some type of infection, then you get inflammation. You may get it in different parts of your body. And what is probably, if I asked you, what is the most powerful anti-inflammatory agents that you take if you're not feeling well or if you're sick? And probably you would say steroids, because if you go to the doctor and you have a sinus infection, for example, you're all stopped up, you have a lot of inflammation, steroids are very good at relieving inflammation. So steroids, what we know, block the release of arachidonic acid, from membranes. And if you don't release arachidonic acid from membranes, you don't make eicosanoids. And if you don't make eicosanoids, then you can reduce inflammation, because eicosanoids are used in the process of, they promote inflammation, I guess is the best way to say that. Again, we'll get in more detail in class. Now, another type of molecules can reduce inflammation and pain, and those are NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They actually block the synthesis of eicosanoids. And note the name, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They don't act like steroids do, but they still can relieve inflammation. How do they do that? They actually block the synthesis of eicosanoids from arachidonic acid. And in class we'll talk about some popular NSAID pain relievers. Alright, this is kind of the pre-video to get us ready for class. I hope this was useful.